It was my first time meeting Jessica's parents. And honestly, I was fucking crushing it. Her folks treated me like I was the Prince of England. Her mom was beaming like a lighthouse. And her dad even cracked open a bottle of the vintage wine he'd been saving for a special occasion. They cooked a massive Italian feast, homemade from scratch. We were laughing, joking. Hell, I was practically planning the bachelor party in my head. Then I ate one single ravioli. The moment I swallowed that cheesy bastard, the atmosphere didn't just change. It shattered like glass. Jessica's dad flipped the heavy oak table, sending plates, wine, and marinara sauce crashing everywhere. It looked like a murder scene. He got right in my face, veins bulging in his neck like thick ropes, screaming like a total maniac. My daughter must be cursed to be with a sick bastard like you. How dare you? Get the hell out of my house. I was completely blindsided. I thought maybe I broke some weird old school Italian family tradition. I looked at Jessica, desperate for backup. But she wasn't looking at me with those love you eyes anymore. She looked at me like I was a piece of dog shit. She just scraped off her heel. Jason, she said, her voice dripping with pure venom. We're done. What? Are you fucking kidding me? I stammered, panic rising in my throat like bile. I ate a ravioli, Jess. That's it. I'm sorry if I offended your ancestors or whatever. I didn't know. She didn't let me finish. He grabbed my wrist and literally dragged me to the front door. As she shoved me out onto the porch, I grabbed the door frame, begging like a simp. You can dump me, fine. But give me a reason. 3 years, Jess. You owe me that much. You know exactly what you did. She sneered, her face twisted in pure hate. I never thought you were this kind of pervert, Jason. You make me sick. Slam. She kicked the door shut with full force. My right hand was still on the frame. The heavy wood crushed my fingers with a sickening crunch. I screamed, as my hand turned into a throbbing mess of purple and blue pulp. I sat on the Amtrak back to campus, cradling my mangled hand, tears stinging my eyes. 3 years? This was the girl who used to cry if I got a paper cut. Now she crushes my hand because I ate pasta? What the actual fuck is going on? I was spiraling. I needed to vent. Before I exploded, I pulled out my phone and called Mike. We've been best friends since kindergarten. I saved his life once when we were kids. Pushed his dumbass out of the way of a speeding truck. And broke my own arm doing it. He owes me his life, dude. You won't believe this psycho shot. I raged into the phone. Jessica dumped me. Her dad went nuclear all because I ate a ravioli at their house. I expected Mike to laugh, to call them crazy. To be on my side. Wait. Mike's voice dropped. It was dead serious, cold. You ate their ravioli? Yeah, man. It was just a cheese and meat ravioli. Who gives a shit, Jason? Mike sounded breathless, terrified. Tell me exactly how you ate it. Every detail. Now. I was confused, but I trusted him. So I described it. How I used my fork. How I cut it, how I chewed it. Even how I swallowed the damn thing. I just ate it like a normal human being. Mike, what is the problem? Silence. Then a cold, hard click. Beep. Beep, beep. He hung up on me. I texted him, WTF. Failed to send, read. Exclamation mark. I checked. Facebook blocked. Instagram blocked. Snapchat blocked. Finally. One text came through from an unknown number. It was Mike. People like you deserve to die. Don't ever contact me again. I felt like the ground was dissolving under my feet. My girlfriend gone. My brother from another mother wants me dead. And all because of a stupid piece of dough and meat. Paranoia set in. They had to be screwing, right? This had to be an elaborate gaslighting prank to get rid of me. So they could hook up. I was so pissed I couldn't sleep. I hired a private investigator. The next morning, I was going to catch these scumbags. But the pie came back with nothing. Kid. They don't know each other. Never met, no calls. No texts. You're clean. I was broke, confused, and alone. I scoured the internet. Is eating ravioli a taboo? Superstitions about pasta? Nothing. Just recipes for grandma's sauce. I tried to keep my head down and focus on finals. I figured if I just stayed away from Italian food, I'd be safe. Then came the New Year's Eve charity gala. The dean made it mandatory for all student leaders. Tried to bail, telling my counselor I was sick. Jason, you're the class president. Mr. Henderson snapped. He was usually a chill guy. But today he looked at me with cold, dead eyes. If you skip this, I'm stripping your title. And putting a black mark on your permanent record. Get your ass in there. I had no choice. The event was a global potluck. I was praying for pizza or tacos. But of course, my rival, Chad. A rich, arrogant prick who's been trying to steal my spot for years. Was running the food station. Hey, Jason. Chad grinned, holding out a plate. Homemade ravioli, my grandmother's recipe. I froze. I'm good, Chad. I think I'm allergic to pork. Oh, don't worry. Chad smirked, his goons snickering behind him. I made a special batch just for you. Spinach and cheese, no meat. You have to try one. The dean is watching. He was right. The dean. The faculty, everyone was staring at me. If I refused, I'd look like a stuck-up jerk. Chad was setting me up. I had to risk it. Last time I ate it voluntarily. This time I was being forced. Maybe that makes a difference. I took the fork. My hand was shaking. I shoved the ravioli into my mouth and swallowed it whole. Barely chewing. Silence. Dead fucking silence. The chatter in the cafeteria stopped instantly. I looked up, 300 people were staring at me. Their expressions weren't just angry. They were horrified. Like I had just murdered a puppy on stage and laughed about it. You sick fuck. My roommates jumped up from the table, knocking their chairs over. I can't believe we let a pervert like you sleep in our room. One screamed. Mr. Henderson. We want him out now. I didn't do anything. I screamed back, backing away. Dad gave it to me. You all saw it. Mr. Henderson walked up to me. His face pale. Jason. I regret ever letting you lead this class. You are a stain on this university. Pack your shot. You're on academic probation. Effective immediately, I was evicted from the dorms. That night my roommates threw my clothes out the third-story window. As I gathered my underwear from the muddy lawn, students leaned out their windows chanting, "Freak. Freak, freak." I rented a crappy motel room on the edge of town. The kind of place where the sheets have stains that tell stories you don't want to hear. I was losing my mind. Was I hallucinating? Did Chad drug the food? I went to the security office the next day, bribing the guard to see the cafeteria tapes. I needed to see what I actually ate. Maybe it wasn't ravioli. Maybe it was. I don't know, a human ear. I watched the tape 3 times. It was just a ravioli. I just ate it. Nothing weird. I went to the hospital. I demanded a psych eval. Doc. Everyone hates me when I eat pasta. Am I crazy? The doctor looked at the security footage I showed him on my phone. His sympathetic face hardened into stone. He pressed a button under his desk. 2 security guards burst in. "Get this piece of trash out of my hospital." The doctor spat. "We treat sick people here. Not monsters like you." I was dragged out and thrown onto the sidewalk like a bag of garbage. I got back to the motel. The landlord was waiting with a baseball bat. "Get out. I don't want your money. Just leave." I had nowhere left to go. I took a bus back home. My family was my last hope. My mom has terminal cancer. She's frail, sweet, and loves me more than anything. My dad and younger brother have always had my back. When I got home, they didn't ask questions. Just saw I was broken. They fed me, let me sleep, and didn't mention school. My brother, who usually stays at his college dorm, came home just to hang out with me for a week. I felt safe. I almost forgot about the curse. Then came the night I decided to go back and face the music. "One last meal before you go," Mom said, her voice weak. She walked out of the kitchen holding a steaming plate. My blood ran cold. "Ravioli." "Mom, I can't," whispered. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Jason, I don't know how much time I have left. This might be the last meal I ever cook for you. Please, just for me." Guilt hit me like a truck. How could I say no to my dying mother? "Okay," I lied. "Pack it up. I'll eat it on the bus." She smiled, relieved. I carefully packed the ravioli into a Tupperware container. Everyone seemed fine. No screaming. No table flipping. I grabbed my bag and reached for the doorknob. I was safe. I was leaving, Jason. A scream ripped through the air. It was Mom. I turned around. She was pointing at me. Her face contorted in pure horror. "How could I give birth to something like you?" She collapsed, fainting from the shock. "Mom," I yelled. Dropping my bag, my dad grabbed a heavy iron floor lamp. He didn't look like my dad anymore. He looked like an executioner. "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. You son of a bitch." Crack. The lamp smashed into my skull. Blood poured down my face, blinding me. I scrambled back, slipping on the floor. "Dad, stop. It's me." My brother ran out of the bathroom. "Dad, what are you doing? Put it down. He's your brother." My brother screamed, shielding me with his body. "If you touch him again, I'm calling the cops." I sobbed, clutching my brother's leg. Finally, someone was on my side. Then Mom woke up. She crawled over. Grabbed my brother's arm and whispered something in his ear. I couldn't hear it, but I saw the color drain from my brother's face. He looked at me. The love was gone, replaced by a darkness I'd never seen before. He walked to the kitchen counter, grabbed the butcher knife, and turned back to me. "You need to die," he said calmly. "Jason, you really need to die." I scrambled backward, kicking the door open. Adrenaline flooding my system as I ran out into the rainy night. I glanced back one last time. My phone was lying on the floor where I dropped it. The screen was still on. Mom must have seen it. I squinted through the blood and rain. I saw what was on the screen. And suddenly I understood. I understood why Jessica dumped me. Why Mike told me to die, why the school expelled me. Why my own mother fainted and my brother wanted to butcher me. I ran through the rain-slicked streets until my lungs burned like acid, my legs threatening to give out beneath me. The cold January downpour mixed with the blood streaming from my head wound, creating pink rivulets that traced down my neck and soaked into my already drenched shirt. Every breath felt like swallowing broken glass, but I couldn't stop. Behind me, I could still hear my brother's voice echoing in my mind, calm, measured, deadly. "You need to die, Jason." The downtown area was nearly deserted at this hour, just a few scattered souls hurrying between storefronts with umbrellas bent against the wind. Street lights reflected off the wet pavement in wavering golden pools, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolled midnight. I ducked into the covered entrance of a closed bookstore, pressing my back against the door as I tried to catch my breath and make sense of the absolute nightmare my life had become in the span of 3 weeks. My phone. That's what Mom had seen on my phone screen before she collapsed. That single image had transformed my loving family into would-be murderers in the span of seconds. But what the hell was it? I'd been scrolling through security footage, hospital records, desperate internet searches about pasta superstitions, nothing that should have triggered that kind of reaction. I patted my pockets frantically, a surge of panic rising when I realized my phone was still on the floor of my parents' house, probably being smashed to pieces by my father right about now. No phone meant no money. My wallet was in my bag, which I'd dropped when Mom screamed. I had nothing except the clothes on my back and a head wound that probably needed stitches. Damn it, I muttered, sliding down to sit on the cold concrete. The rain continued its relentless assault, and I pulled my knees to my chest, trying to conserve what little body heat I had left. I needed to think. I needed to understand. The pattern was clear now, even through the fog of shock and pain. Every single time someone turned against me, it happened after I ate ravioli. But it wasn't immediate, there was always a delay, a moment of normalcy before the switch flipped. With Jessica's family, I'd finished the ravioli, we'd kept talking, and then her father exploded. With Mike, I'd described eating it over the phone, and he'd gone silent before hanging up. At the charity gala, I'd swallowed it whole, and there had been that beat of dead silence before the entire cafeteria turned on me. And tonight, I'd packed the ravioli Mom made, I'd reached for the doorknob, I'd been leaving. Safe. Then she'd seen my phone screen and everything went to hell. The screen, I whispered, my breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. She saw something on the screen right before she collapsed. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to replay those final moments with crystal clarity. I'd been holding my bag in my left hand, reaching for the doorknob with my right. My phone had been in my back pocket. No, wait. I'd taken it out earlier to check the bus schedule. I'd set it down on the side table by the door, screen up, still unlocked because I'd been about to check it again. What had been on the screen? I'd been scrolling through my camera roll, looking at the security footage I'd photographed from the university cafeteria. Frame by frame images of me sitting at that table, Chad approaching with the plate, me taking the fork, bringing the ravioli to my mouth. My eyes snapped open. Holy shit. It wasn't about eating the ravioli. It was about how I ate it. Mike had asked me on the phone, tell me exactly how you ate it, every detail. He'd sounded terrified, breathless. And after I'd described the process, using my fork, cutting it, chewing it, swallowing it, he'd gone silent before cutting me off completely. But what was wrong with how I ate it? I'd done it like any normal person would. Fork, cut, chew, swallow. That was just eating. That was how you consumed food. Unless there's a specific way you're supposed to eat ravioli, I said aloud, my voice barely audible over the drumming rain. Some kind of etiquette or tradition that I violated. But that didn't make sense. I'd Googled every possible superstition, every pasta-related taboo, every Italian dining custom known to humanity. There was nothing about ravioli requiring special treatment. And even if there were some obscure tradition, why would it cause this level of visceral hatred? Why would my own mother call me a monster? Why would a hospital doctor call security? This wasn't about tradition. This was about something else entirely. I needed information, and I needed it from someone who wouldn't immediately try to murder me. Someone who didn't know me personally, who couldn't have any preconceived bias. Someone with access to information that might explain this insanity. The public library. It was 6 blocks from here, and while it would be closed at this hour, the building had an exterior wall of windows that faced the street. If I could just see inside, maybe find a computer terminal that someone had left logged in, or a bulletin board with community information. I was grasping at straws, but it was better than sitting here waiting to freeze to death or get discovered by someone who'd seen me eating ravioli. I pushed myself to my feet, wincing as the movement sent fresh waves of pain through my skull. The bleeding had slowed to a trickle, but I could feel the sticky wetness matting my hair. I probably looked like an extra from a horror movie, which meant I needed to avoid well-lit areas and anyone who might call the cops. The route to the library took me through a series of narrow alleys and side streets, past dumpsters that reeked of rotting food and stray cats that scattered at my approach. The rain was a blessing and a curse. It kept most people indoors, but it also made me even more conspicuous, a lone figure shambling through the darkness like something out of a zombie apocalypse film. I was halfway there when I heard footsteps behind me. Not running, just walking. Steady, purposeful, matching my pace. I sped up, and the footsteps sped up. I slowed down, testing, and they slowed down too. Someone was following me. My heart rate spiked, and I fought the urge to break into a sprint. Running would just confirm I knew I was being tailed, and besides, I was already exhausted. Instead, I turned a corner sharply and pressed myself into a recessed doorway, holding my breath. The footsteps continued, growing closer. I could hear the splash of shoes and puddles, the rustle of a jacket. Whoever it was, they were alone. That was something, at least. One person I might be able to handle, depending on whether they were armed. A figure rounded the corner, and I tensed, ready to either fight or flee depending on who it was. It was a woman, maybe mid-30s, wearing a dark raincoat with the hood pulled up. She stopped a few feet from my hiding spot, and I saw her head turn, scanning the area. "Looking for me?" "Jason Rivera," she said, her voice clear and calm despite the rain. "I know you're here. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to talk." Every instinct screamed at me not to trust her, but something in her tone made me hesitate. She didn't sound angry or afraid. She sounded resigned. Tired, even. "How do you know my name?" I called out, staying hidden. "Because you're the fourth one this month," she replied. "And probably not the last, the way things are going." "Fourth what?" She turned toward my voice, and in the light from a nearby street lamp, I caught a glimpse of her face. She had sharp features, intelligent eyes, and an expression that suggested she'd seen some serious shit in her life and come out the other side fundamentally changed by it. "The fourth person I've tracked down who ate ravioli the wrong way," she said. "The first three are dead." Her name was Dr. Elena Marchetti, and she bought me a coffee at the only 24-hour diner still operating in this part of town, a greasy spoon called Mel's that smelled like burnt bacon and desperation. The waitress, a tired-looking woman with a name tag that read Dottie, barely glanced at my blood-matted hair before bringing us 2 mugs of coffee that was thick enough to stand a spoon in. "You look like hell, honey," Dottie said to me, her voice carrying the rasp of 40 years of cigarettes. "There's a first aid kit in the bathroom if you need it." "Thanks," I managed, my hands shaking as I wrapped them around the warm mug. Dr. Marchetti waited until Dottie had shuffled away before leaning forward, her eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. "I'm going to explain something to you that's going to sound completely insane," she began. "And I need you to listen to the entire thing before you react, because your life depends on understanding this." I nodded slowly. At this point, insane was the baseline. Nothing could surprise me anymore. 6 months ago, a video went viral on social media, she continued. It started on TikTok, spread to Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. The video showed a young man eating ravioli in a very specific way. He stabbed it with his fork, lifted it whole to his mouth, and bit down on it, letting the filling squirt out onto his plate before eating the pasta shell separately. I frowned. "Okay? That's weird, but not exactly. Let me finish." Dr. Marchetti held up a hand. The video was posted by an Italian chef named Marco Santini, who runs a restaurant in Naples. He captioned it, "This is how psychopaths eat ravioli." It was meant to be a joke, a funny observation about food etiquette. Except it wasn't a joke. She pulled out her phone, a burner model, I noticed, not a smartphone, and scrolled through what looked like screenshots of articles. Within 48 hours of that video going viral, a team of psychologists at Stanford published a peer-reviewed study that had been in the works for 3 years. The study was about correlating eating behaviors with psychological profiles, specifically antisocial personality disorders. My coffee was getting cold, but I couldn't bring myself to drink it. I just stared at her, waiting. The study found, and I'm simplifying here, that there's a statistically significant correlation between people who eat stuffed pasta in a destructive manner and people who score high on measures of psychopathy, sadism, and lack of empathy. The theory is that the act of deliberately destroying the ravioli to access its filling, rather than eating it as a complete unit, reflects a fundamental inability to appreciate wholeness or integrity. It's a metaphor made manifest in behavior. That's ridiculous, I said flatly. It's just food. People eat things different ways all the time. I know it sounds ridiculous, Dr. Marchetti agreed. And under normal circumstances, it would be. Except the study went viral at exactly the same time as that TikTok video. Suddenly, everyone in the world knew about this psychopath test. News outlets ran stories. Morning shows did segments. Within a week, eating ravioli the wrong way became synonymous with being a dangerous person. She tapped her phone screen. And here's where it gets dark. People started watching for it. Parents started testing their children. Employers started paying attention during business lunches. There were cases of divorces being filed, job offers being rescinded, friendships ending, all because someone ate a piece of pasta the wrong way. I thought about Jessica's father flipping the table, about Mike hanging up on me, about 300 people staring at me in horror at the charity gala. But I didn't destroy the ravioli, I protested. I just ate it normally. Fork, cut, chew, swallow. I didn't squeeze out the filling or anything weird like that. I know, Dr. Marchetti said quietly. That's the problem. She turned her phone toward me, showing me a screenshot of a social media post with millions of likes. The post showed a series of images demonstrating the correct way to eat ravioli. Place the entire piece on your fork, bring it to your mouth, eat it whole in one bite without cutting it, chewing gently so the filling and pasta are consumed together as a unified whole. After the study and the video went viral, this became the accepted norm, she explained. Anyone who cut their ravioli before eating it, anyone who stabbed it too hard with their fork, anyone who chewed in a way that might burst the filling, they were immediately suspect. The internet created a new social test, and everyone bought into it. But that's insane, I repeated, my voice rising. You can't judge someone's entire character based on how they eat pasta. Of course you can't, Dr. Marchetti agreed. But mass hysteria doesn't care about logic. Once enough people believe something, it becomes a social reality. And right now, the social reality is that eating ravioli the wrong way marks you as a potential psychopath. Someone to be feared, avoided, eliminated from the group. I sat back in the booth, my head spinning, and not just from the concussion. You said 3 people died. Her expression darkened. The first was a college student in Oregon. He ate ravioli at a family dinner, cutting it with his knife before consuming it. His parents called the police, claiming he'd threatened them. When officers arrived, there was a confrontation. The student was shot and killed. The official report said he was reaching for a weapon. There was no weapon found. I felt sick. The second was a woman in Texas, Dr. Marchetti continued. She ordered ravioli at a restaurant and ate it with a spoon, breaking it apart to cool it down. Another diner filmed her, posted the video online with her name and workplace. Within 24 hours, she'd been fired, evicted from her apartment, and received thousands of death threats. She committed suicide 3 days later. Jesus Christ, I whispered. The third was a man in Florida, just last week. He was eating homemade ravioli his wife had made. She saw him cut it in half before eating it. She filed for divorce that night, took out a restraining order, and got full custody of their 2 children. The court granted everything she asked for based solely on testimony about how he ate pasta. He tried to fight it, tried to explain. Nobody would listen. He had a heart attack in the courthouse. Stress-induced. He was 34 years old. We sat in silence for a long moment, the only sound the sizzle of the grill in the kitchen and the steady drum of rain against the windows. "How do you know all this?" I finally asked. "Because I'm a forensic psychologist," Dr. Marchetti said. "I was one of the peer reviewers for the original study. I tried to stop it from being published. The methodology was flawed, the sample size too small, the conclusions overreaching. But I was outvoted. The lead researcher was convinced he'd found something groundbreaking, and the journal was eager to publish something that would generate attention." She laughed bitterly. "Well, it generated attention, all right. And now I spend my time trying to track down the people whose lives are being destroyed by my profession's arrogance, trying to help them before they end up dead. So what do I do?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "How do I fix this? How do I make people see that I'm not a psychopath just because I ate a piece of food the way I've been eating food my entire life?" Dr. Marchetti was quiet for a long moment, her fingers drumming against her coffee mug. "That's the question I've been trying to answer for 6 months," she said finally. "And I still don't have a good answer." "There has to be something," I insisted. "I can't just disappear. Change my identity. Spend the rest of my life in hiding because of a stupid viral video." "Actually," she said slowly, "that might not be necessary. I've been working on something. It's risky, and there's no guarantee it'll work, but it might be your best shot." I leaned forward. "I'll try anything." She pulled out a small notebook from her jacket pocket, flipping through pages covered in cramped handwriting. "The problem is that this has become a mass delusion, a shared psychogenic illness. Everyone believes the same false narrative because they've all been exposed to the same viral content. To break a mass delusion, you need a counter-narrative that's equally viral, equally compelling." "You want to make a video?" I asked incredulously. "Not just a video," Dr. Marchetti corrected. "A comprehensive media campaign. Videos, articles, social media posts, expert testimonials, everything designed to dismantle the ravioli psychopath myth and expose it for the pseudoscience it is." "Who's going to listen?" I asked bitterly. "Everyone already made up their minds." "That's where you come in," she said, meeting my eyes. "You're going to be the face of this campaign. You're going to tell your story, how eating a simple piece of pasta destroyed your life, cost you your girlfriend, your best friend, your education, your family. You're going to make people see the human cost of this hysteria." I thought about Jessica's face twisted in hatred, about Mike's text telling me I deserved to die, about my brother holding a butcher knife and speaking in that calm, dead voice. "They'll just say I'm a psychopath trying to manipulate them," I said. "That's what psychopaths do, right? They're charming. They manipulate." "Maybe," Dr. Marchetti acknowledged. "But there's something else you can do. Something that no actual psychopath would be willing to do." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "You're going to take the official clinical assessment for psychopathy, the PCLR, administered by licensed professionals, with the results made public. You're going to submit to brain scans, psychological evaluations, everything. And you're going to do it all on camera, completely transparent, completely verifiable." I swallowed hard. "And if the tests show I am a psychopath?" "Then we'll deal with that when we get there," she said. "But Jason, I've been watching you for the past hour. I've seen how you react to the stories of those 3 deaths, with horror, with empathy, with fear. Those aren't psychopathic responses. I'm willing to bet everything that you're going to test completely normal." "When do we start?" I asked. She checked her watch. "As soon as you're ready. I've got a whole team standing by, videographers, social media experts, journalists who are sympathetic to the cause. We've been waiting for someone like you, someone who's willing to fight back instead of just running and hiding." I thought about my mother lying on the floor, about my father swinging that lamp at my head, about my brother's transformation from protector to would-be killer. I thought about Jessica's parents treating me like royalty one moment and like garbage the next. I thought about 300 students chanting freak while I gathered my clothes from the mud. I'm ready, I said. Dr. Marchetti's team turned out to be more extensive than I'd imagined. We left the diner and drove 40 minutes to a converted warehouse in an industrial part of the city, where I was introduced to a dozen people working in what looked like a cross between a television studio and a tech startup. There was Marcus, a videographer who'd won awards for his documentary work on social media manipulation. There was Keiko, a viral marketing specialist who'd orchestrated successful awareness campaigns for multiple nonprofits. There was Dr. James Rothstein, a neuroscientist from MIT who specialized in debunking pseudoscience. And there were others, editors, researchers, social media managers, all of them working toward the same goal. We call ourselves the Rational Response Initiative, Dr. Marchetti explained as she led me through the space. We formed after the ravioli study went viral, once we realized how dangerous this kind of mass hysteria could become. Our mission is to combat scientific misinformation that leads to real-world harm. She showed me to a small room that had been set up as a medical examination area. First things first, we need to get that head wound looked at. Dr. Patel is our medical consultant. She's going to clean and bandage it, make sure you don't have a serious concussion. Dr. Patel turned out to be a kind-faced woman in her 50s who clucked her tongue disapprovingly when she saw the gash on my scalp. This needs stitches, she said firmly. And you definitely have a concussion. When did this happen? About 2 hours ago, I admitted. And you've been running around in the rain since then? She shook her head. Sit down before you fall down. As she worked on cleaning and stitching the wound, a process that hurt like hell despite the local anesthetic, Dr. Marchetti outlined the plan. We're going to start by recording your story, she explained. Everything that happened, from the first dinner with Jessica's parents to tonight's incident with your family. We'll film it interview style, just you talking to the camera, completely honest and unscripted. Then tomorrow, you'll undergo the full battery of psychological assessments, she continued. We'll film those too, with your permission. Everything transparent, everything documented. The PCLR for psychopathy, the MMPI for general personality assessment, fMRI brain scans to show your neural responses to empathy-triggering stimuli, the whole works. And then? I asked, trying not to wince as Dr. Patel worked on a particularly deep part of the cut. Then we compile everything into a comprehensive media package and release it simultaneously across every platform we can access, Dr. Marchetti said. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. We'll have journalists ready to write articles, psychologists ready to provide expert commentary, and a coordinated social media push to ensure it reaches critical mass. You really think this will work? I asked. I think it has a better chance than anything else we've tried, she said. The key to breaking a mass delusion is providing people with a clear alternative narrative that's backed by credible evidence. You're the emotional hook, the sympathetic victim of an unjust persecution. The scientific data is the logical argument. Together, they create a compelling counterstory. Dr. Patel finished with my stitches and wrapped my head in a clean white bandage. You need rest, she said firmly. Real rest, not running around in the rain. I'm prescribing 24 hours of taking it easy. We'll start filming in the morning, Dr. Marchetti agreed. For now, let's get you cleaned up and fed. There's a shower and some spare clothes in the back room, and I think Marcus ordered Chinese food. The next morning, I sat in front of a camera and told my story. It was harder than I'd expected. Not the physical act of speaking, that was easy enough. But reliving each moment, describing the look on Jessica's face when she called me a pervert, the sound of Mike's voice when he told me I deserved to die, the feeling of my father's lamp crashing into my skull, all of it came flooding back with a visceral intensity that made my throat tighten and my eyes burn. Marcus, behind the camera, was patient and gentle. Take your time, he said whenever I needed to pause. This isn't a performance. Just tell the truth. So I did. I told them about the ravioli at Jessica's house, about the confusion and heartbreak of losing a 3-year relationship in an instant. I told them about Mike blocking me on every platform, about hiring a private investigator because I was so convinced there had to be a rational explanation. I told them about Chad's setup at the charity gala, about the chanting students and the eviction from my dorm. And I told them about my family. About my mother with terminal cancer cooking me one last meal, about my father trying to kill me, about my brother's transformation. That was the hardest part, and I broke down completely, tears streaming down my face as I described the moment I'd realized my own family wanted me dead. When I finished, the room was silent except for my ragged breathing. That was perfect, Marcus said quietly. Thank you, Jason. I know how difficult that was. The psychological assessments began that afternoon. Dr. Rothstein administered the PCLR, a detailed interview that examined 20 different personality traits associated with psychopathy. We went through each item methodically: glibness and superficial charm, grandiose sense of self-worth, pathological lying, cunning and manipulativeness, lack of remorse or guilt, shallow affect, callousness and lack of empathy, failure to accept responsibility for actions. For each trait, Dr. Rothstein asked specific questions and scored my responses on a scale from 0 to 2. The whole process took nearly 3 hours, and he filmed it all, explaining his scoring rationale for each item to ensure complete transparency. When we finished, he tallied up the scores. The maximum possible score was 40, with a score of 30 or above indicating psychopathy. Clinical cutoffs for research purposes usually used a score of 25 or above in North America. My score was 4. 4, Dr. Rothstein repeated, showing the calculation to the camera. That's well below the average score for the general population, which hovers around 5. Jason, you're not just not a psychopath, you're actually more empathetic and conscientious than the average person. I felt a wave of relief so intense it made me dizzy. So I'm normal? More than normal, he said with a smile. You're a good person who got caught up in a moral panic. Now let's prove it to the world. The brain scans came next. Dr. Rothstein explained that psychopaths typically show reduced activity in areas of the brain associated with empathy and emotional processing, specifically the amygdala and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. They put me in an fMRI machine and showed me a series of images designed to trigger empathetic responses: photos of people in pain, children crying, animals suffering. It was uncomfortable, lying in that claustrophobic tube while looking at disturbing images, but I understood the necessity. When the scans were complete, Dr. Rothstein analyzed the results with obvious satisfaction. Your amygdala and VMPFC are lighting up exactly as they should, he explained, pointing to the colorful brain images on his screen. This is a completely normal empathetic response. Actually, your activation patterns are stronger than average in several regions, which correlates with your PCLR scores. Over the next 2 days, we recorded additional content. We filmed experts, psychologists, neuroscientists, sociologists, explaining why the ravioli psychopathy correlation was scientifically unsound. We put together a detailed breakdown of the original study's flaws, narrated by Dr. Marchetti herself. We created infographics showing the human cost of the moral panic: the 3 deaths, dozens of divorces, hundreds of job losses, thousands of destroyed relationships. Keiko and her team crafted the social media strategy. We need this to spread faster than the original myth, she explained, showing me the plan on a large whiteboard covered in timelines and platform-specific tactics. We're going to launch simultaneously across all platforms at 9 a.m. Eastern on Friday. That's when social media engagement peaks. We've got influencers ready to share, journalists ready to write, hashtags ready to trend. What's the hashtag? I asked. She grinned. It's just pasta. Friday morning came faster than I'd expected. I'd spent the previous night barely sleeping, my mind racing with possibilities. What if nobody cared? What if people just doubled down on their beliefs? What if this made things worse instead of better? Dr. Marchetti found me at dawn, staring out the warehouse window at the slowly lightening sky. Can't sleep? She asked. Terrified, I admitted. Good, she said. That means you understand what's at stake. But Jason, whatever happens today, you should be proud. You're fighting back. You're standing up against injustice. That takes real courage. At exactly 9 a.m., Keiko hit the button. The first video, my personal story, went live on YouTube. Simultaneously, shorter clips were posted to TikTok, Instagram Reels, and Twitter. The scientific debunking videos followed seconds later. Infographics flooded Facebook and Pinterest. Articles went live on Medium, Substack, and partner news sites. The hashtag It's Just Pasta began to trend. At first, the response was mixed. Some people immediately understood and began sharing the content with supportive messages. But others were hostile, accusing me of manipulation, claiming the psychological tests were faked, insisting that I was exactly the kind of charming psychopath who would orchestrate such an elaborate deception. This is normal, Keiko assured me as we monitored the social media feeds. Initial resistance is expected. The key is sustained momentum. By noon, several major news outlets had picked up the story. A CNN segment featured Dr. Rothstein explaining the flaws in the original study. The New York Times published an op-ed by Dr. Marchetti titled "When Pseudoscience Goes Viral, The Ravioli Delusion." By evening, the tide was beginning to turn. A popular science YouTuber with 15 million subscribers posted a deep dive video debunking the ravioli psychopathy correlation, and it immediately started racking up views. Several celebrities tweeted about the campaign, sharing their own stories of eating ravioli wrong and mocking the idea that it meant anything. The original researcher who'd published the study, Dr. Theodore Chen from Stanford, released a statement admitting that his findings had been misinterpreted and overgeneralized by the public and that he never intended for the research to be used as a diagnostic tool. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. By Sunday, #It's Just Pasta was the #1 trending topic worldwide. My interview video had been viewed over 50 million times. The scientific debunking content was being shared in schools, discussed on news programs, analyzed in think pieces and podcasts. And slowly, gradually, I started receiving messages. The first was from a classmate I barely knew. "Holy shit, Jason, I'm so sorry. I was one of the people chanting at you when you got evicted. I feel like such an idiot. Please know that I didn't understand what was really happening. I hope you can forgive me." Then another, "I saw your video and I'm crying. I cut my ravioli before eating it too, and I've been so scared that someone would notice. Thank you for speaking up." And another, "My husband filed for divorce after seeing me eat stuffed shells wrong. Your campaign made me realize how insane that was. I'm fighting for my marriage. Thank you." They kept coming. Hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of messages. Apologies, gratitude, stories of people who'd been affected by the moral panic and were now finding the courage to push back. On Monday morning, Dr. Marchetti came to find me with her phone in hand and a strange expression on her face. "Jason, you need to see this." She showed me a video that had been posted an hour earlier. It was Jessica. My ex-girlfriend sat in front of a camera in what looked like her college dorm room, her eyes red from crying. "My name is Jessica Romano," she said, her voice shaking. "And I owe Jason Rivera the biggest apology of my life." I watched, transfixed, as she continued. "When Jason ate ravioli at my parents' house, I believed the viral narrative that it meant he was a psychopath. I ended a 3-year relationship with someone I loved because of how he ate pasta. I said horrible things to him. I hurt him, physically hurt him, and I threw him out of my life without even listening to his side of the story." She wiped at her tears. After seeing his video and learning the truth about the study, I realized what I'd done. I let internet hysteria destroy something real and beautiful. Jason, if you're watching this, I am so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if you'll ever want to talk to me again. But I needed to publicly acknowledge what I did to you and take responsibility for it." The video ended. I sat in silence, processing. Part of me wanted to be angry. Jessica had crushed my hand, called me a pervert, thrown away 3 years like they meant nothing. But another part of me understood. She'd been caught up in the same mass delusion as everyone else, genuinely believing I was dangerous based on a viral myth. "What are you thinking?" Dr. Marchetti asked gently. "I'm thinking," I said slowly, "that understanding how it happened doesn't mean I have to accept what she did. But maybe it means I can stop being so angry about it." More apology videos followed. Chad posted one, admitting he'd set me up at the charity gala because he genuinely believed I was a psychopath and wanted to expose me. Mr. Henderson, my school counselor, posted one acknowledging that he'd acted rashly in placing me on academic probation. By Tuesday, the university had issued a formal statement reversing my probation and offering me a full scholarship for the remainder of my education, along with a public apology from the administration. By Wednesday, I received a text from an unknown number. It was Mike. "Jason, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I said was unforgivable. But I want you to know that I'm getting help, real therapy, to understand why I abandoned someone who saved my life over something so stupid. You don't have to respond to this. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, and that I know sorry isn't enough." I stared at the message for a long time before typing a response. "Thank you for saying that. I'm not ready to talk yet, but maybe someday. Take care of yourself." The hardest call came on Thursday evening. It was my mother. "Jason?" Her voice was weak, trembling. "Baby, is it really you?" "It's me, Mom," I said, my throat tight. "I saw your videos," she said, and I could hear her crying. "I saw everything. What I did to you, what your father did, what your brother almost did. Jason, I don't know how to live with myself. I was so convinced you were dangerous. I thought I'd somehow given birth to a monster. I let that fear make me into the monster instead." "Mom. Please let me finish," she interrupted. "I know I can't take back what happened. I know I can't undo the harm. But I want you to know that I love you. I have always loved you. And I am so proud of what you've done, standing up against this insanity. You've always been the bravest of all of us." I was crying now too. "I love you too, Mom. But I need time. What happened, it's not something I can just forget." "I understand," she said. "Take all the time you need. Just know that when you're ready, your family will be here. We're all getting help, all of us going to therapy to understand how we fell for this. Your father wants to talk to you, and your brother, but I told them you needed space." "Thank you," I whispered. "And Jason?" Her voice grew softer. "I don't have much time left. I know that. But I'm going to fight to stay alive long enough to see you again, to tell you in person how sorry I am. That's a promise." We talked for another few minutes before saying goodbye. When I hung up, Dr. Marchetti was there, offering a box of tissues and an understanding smile. "This is the hard part," she said. "The anger is easier than the forgiveness." "I don't know if I can forgive them," I admitted. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that's okay," she said. "Forgiveness isn't required for healing. Sometimes understanding is enough." After 3 months of this, the warehouse has become my second home. After everything that happened, I couldn't bring myself to go back to campus immediately, even with the scholarship offer. Instead, I'd stayed on with the Rational Response Initiative, helping them develop new campaigns to combat scientific misinformation. It turned out I had a knack for it. My personal story had resonated with people in a way that pure data never could, and I'd learned how to harness that, how to find the human element in every issue, the individual lives affected by mass delusions and viral myths. We'd already launched 2 more successful campaigns, one debunking a viral claim that left-handed people were more prone to criminal behavior, and another dismantling a myth about certain blood types indicating personality traits. Each time, we combined personal stories with hard science, emotional appeals with logical arguments. Jessica and I had met for coffee twice. The first time had been awkward, both of us tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. The second time had been better. We'd talked honestly about what had happened, about how we'd both changed. We weren't getting back together, too much had been broken for that, but we were finding our way towards something like friendship. Mike and I had started texting occasionally. Short messages, nothing deep, but it was a start. He was in therapy, working through his own understanding of how quickly he'd abandoned our friendship. I wasn't sure we'd ever be as close as we once were, but the door wasn't completely closed. My family was the most complicated piece. I'd gone home for dinner last month, the first time I'd been back since that terrible night. My father had cried, something I'd never seen him do before. My brother had been quiet, his guilt palpable in every word and gesture. My mother, weaker now but still fighting, had held my hand through the whole meal and refused to let go. We'd eaten spaghetti, deliberately. No ravioli, that felt like too much too soon. But pasta, normal pasta, eaten however each of us wanted to eat it. It was a small act of reclamation, of refusing to let the fear control us anymore. I was still angry sometimes. Late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I'd remember the lamp hitting my skull, the knife in my brother's hand, and the fury would rise up fresh and sharp. Dr. Patel said that was normal, that trauma didn't heal on a neat timeline. But I was also learning to live with it. To accept that life was messy and complicated, that people could be both victims and perpetrators, that forgiveness was a choice you made every day rather than a destination you reached. The hashtag It's Just Pasta campaign had faded from the headlines, replaced by the next viral sensation, the next moral panic. But its impact lingered. The original study had been formally retracted by the journal that published it. Dr. Chen had resigned from Stanford. Several organizations had been formed to combat the spread of pseudoscience on social media. And people were more cautious now, more skeptical of viral claims that seemed to offer simple answers to complex questions. It wasn't perfect, humanity's capacity for mass delusion was far from defeated, but it was something. On this particular afternoon, I was working on editing footage for our latest campaign when Keiko burst into my workspace, her phone held high. "Jason, you need to see this right now." I looked up, alarmed by the urgency in her voice. "What is it?" She showed me her phone screen. It was a TikTok video, already at 10 million views and climbing fast. The video showed a young man eating a slice of pizza, folding it in half before taking a bite. The caption read, "Scientists say this is how psychopaths eat pizza. Share to warn others." I stared at the screen, then looked up at Keiko. Then, despite everything, I started laughing. "Are you kidding me?" I managed between laughs. "Pizza? They're doing it again with pizza?" Keiko was grinning too, though her eyes showed concern. "So what do we do?" I thought about it for a moment, then stood up and grabbed my jacket. "We do what we do best. We find the person at the center of this storm, we tell their story, and we fight back with truth." Dr. Marchetti appeared in the doorway, drawn by our voices. "Another one?" she asked. "Another one," I confirmed. "Ready to go to work?" She smiled. "Always." As we began planning our response, I felt a strange sense of purpose settle over me. What had happened to me had been horrible, traumatic, life-altering. But it had also shown me what I was capable of, what I cared about, who I wanted to be. I'd survived a mass delusion. I'd stood up against impossible odds. I'd found allies and advocates and a cause worth fighting for. And if someone out there was going through what I'd gone through, facing the same irrational hatred and fear over something as absurd as eating pizza the wrong way, then they needed to know they weren't alone. They needed to know that someone understood, that someone was fighting for them, that this too could be overcome. I pulled out my laptop and started drafting our response strategy. The title wrote itself. Hashtag It's Just Pizza, how we fall for the same delusions again and again, and how we can stop. Outside the warehouse windows, the sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere out there, someone was eating pizza the wrong way and facing consequences they didn't deserve. But not for long. Not if we had anything to say about it. The fight against mass delusion was ongoing, perhaps endless. But it was a fight worth having, a battle worth waging, one absurd food panic at a time. I smiled to myself and kept typing. After all, it was just pasta. It was just pizza. It was just life, messy and complicated and beautiful and strange. And I was finally learning how to live it.